Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marin Peterson. Today, I will be talking about family communications. Within family communications, I'm going to specifically focus today's research on sibling conflict. Why, may you ask? Well, I'm an only child that was raised by a single parent. I have no idea how sibling conflict affects a family dynamic, and therefore, this produced the reason for my research. So, what is a family? A family is defined as a group of intimates who generate a sense of home and group identity, complete with strong ties of loyalty and emotion that experience history and future. Conflict within families is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It is natural and inevitable, and if well managed, conflict can actually strengthen relationships within families. We'll see how this plays out with my first interviewee, Rachel. Good afternoon, Rachel. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into sibling conflict. What is your sibling situation? What birth order are you in amongst your siblings?
I'm the youngest of two older siblings.
What is your primary conflict style amongst your siblings?
I believe that my primary conflict style has really changed since I've gone into the communication studies program. Before I was in this program, I was more of an avoider. I didn't really like conflict. I just didn't want to deal with it. I thought it was a waste of time, but since being in this program, I've learned what it is and that it's not bad, and that if you are in a conflict, it helps resolve a lot of issues that you have. And so with my family, I'm a lot better with conflict and being able to resolve it with my siblings. I guess I would say I'm more of a compromiser with my siblings and everything, especially with like smaller issues, such as if my siblings are having a fight about clothes and those type of issues, I'm able to help them out and like come up with a compromise with everybody. But with bigger issues, I do fall back to avoiding.
Great. Do you think you're at an advantage within the position of your birth order?
Honestly, yeah, I do. Since I am the youngest, I am considered the baby, and I believe my family is a little bit more lenient on me because I am the baby and I would consider myself the favorite. So yeah, I would definitely say I'm at an advantage with the position I am in my birth order.
Would you say your siblings are more likely to compromise or collaborate more in your preferences because you are the baby when you do experience conflict?
Yes and no. Mostly yes, because sometimes they just don't want to deal with the conflict they could get from my other family members with giving me stress. But no, because sometimes they just don't want to be like, well, you're the baby, let's brush it off. No, sometimes they get irritated with me being the baby and they're just like, no, you have to deal with this, even if like this upsets you.
So do you think they assert a sense of power or dominance in conflict because you're younger?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And how so? How do you see that play out? Like, do they kind of have the final say in the conflict?
Yeah, sometimes my sisters will be like, well, I'm older, so my way goes.
So they kind of shut it down sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, and I really don't sometimes get my way because of that, because they're technically older, so they get their way, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. They have more of an authority over me than other times.
Do you think the rule or the saying of respect your elders ever plays out in your sibling dynamic?
Sometimes, yeah. When I was growing up, my dad was all about respect your elders. You need to be able to know your place sometimes, and sometimes that does play in my family conflict.
And do you ever see your dad show up as a mediator between you guys when you have conflict?
Honestly,
does he ever come through and shut it down?
He shuts it down in different ways that I believe don't really resolve it. So he really just doesn't want to hear the fighting, especially when we were younger. So one example is fighting over the front seat. He would just basically resolve it by saying the oldest gets the front seat, which is my sister. And so me and my other sister would just have to always take the back seat because my dad's just like, final word, this is what it is. I don't want to hear it again.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Last question. What family roles play out in your sibling conflict, such as public versus private fights and whether that's acceptable in your family?
Okay, so I guess one rule that we really have in my family is we don't fight in public. This is a little bit more like known. Like my mom says, like, we don't need to do this here. This isn't anybody else's business. We don't need to be fighting in a public area online, such as Facebook or stuff like that. Nobody needs to really know our business because it's our business and it's supposed to just stay in the family.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Have a great day.
You too.
Moving on to our next question. What role do you play within the conflict of your siblings? Are you the peacemaker, the mediator, the instigator, the perpetuator?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm the mediator. My brother tends to be very practical and tries to find a solution, while my sister is more considerate of people's emotions, and she knows that people aren't necessarily looking for a resolution. They kind of just want to be heard, while my brother just tries to solve the issue. Well, I'm smack in the middle. I'm a good mixture of both, so I would say that when I'm not present in the conflict, it's really hard for them to come to a conclusion. And so yeah, I'm a pretty good mediator between the two.
Okay, so you bring everyone together and you find that middle ground.
Yeah, I would say so, for sure.
So you employ more family cohesiveness then?
Yes, yeah, and I don't think that collaboration would even be a thing if I wasn't around.
Great. Moving on to the next question. How do your family values emerge, and in which way do they emerge when you're having conflict?
Yeah, so for me, family first is a huge one. We always put our immediate four in front of anything else. So let's say if my sister has an issue with her boyfriend, immediately we get defensive and we take my sister's side. Even though she may have caused the problem, we understand that you only get one family and you have to support them whether they screw up or not. So we're just always there for each other, even if we make a bad decision.
So you would say the conflict usually stays within your family as well, since you're so connected to your immediate four. Say you're having conflict within those immediate four, does it stay within that framework?
Yeah. It's a very intimate conversation. We do not let it pass our immediate four.
Great. And are there any other values that you see that emerge within your family when you're conflicting? Like any rules around how you communicate with each other when you're in conflict?
I would say not really. Anything goes. We curse at each other. We don't really beat around the bush. Very confrontational. Yeah, we don't sugarcoat anything.
Would you say that your sister, even the more emotional one, doesn't sugarcoat and is straight to the point?
Yeah, I would say that she actually is inspired by me and my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So she tries to be a lot more confrontational as well and curses at us sometimes. Yeah.
Do you feel like there's like an unspoken rule of how long you let a conflict go on within your family? Like, do you not let it surpass 24 hours?
Yeah. So it's very, an unspoken rule is definitely just handle it when it rises. Do not let it simmer at all. Just solve it when it presents itself.
And you feel like that's an effective way to handle your conflict?
I think so. I can't necessarily let someone sit in the same room as me knowing that we have an issue between us two if I'm not actively trying to solve it. So it's hard for me.
Do you feel like that provokes some inauthenticity with the relationship if you let it simmer and don't discuss it immediately?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where grudges are built. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Oscar.
For sure.
Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that this information was helpful to you as it was to me. We can see from my data collected that sibling conflict can dramatically affect the way families communicate and operate, and I hope you're able to see this as well.